Awesome. So we're here with Leah today for one of our first template experts that we are featuring on Usersnap. And I want to share with you really quickly some of the things that I really love about Leah and the work that she's doing and why I trust her voice and why I think you should too. So first of all, when she speaks, I know that she knows what she's talking about. I've taken her ICP course. I've followed her content for years. And I've talked to many people who she has worked with and helped over the years. And I know that when she gives this advice, it's not coming from some theory. It's coming from a lived experience that she has seen and learned from, and that is a big part of value in our world. Second, she's pretty much not capable of BS. I love how she just says what she thinks, and she doesn't worry about what people are going to think about it. She's just more on the side of integrity and honesty, and let's say what we need to say. Third, she gives so much back to the community. And myself personally and people that I know have been impacted by what she's given. And she's not someone who likes to be put on a pedestal or, given a lot of flowery compliments. But I will say that I do believe that she's a strong voice in our community and someone who really does give back a lot of her time and energy to help people grow. So thank you, Leah, for being here with us. And thank you for sharing your insights today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the kind words.
So first question for you, a bit of tough love. In your experience, what is something that most B2B companies, especially in SaaS, get wrong about defining their ICP?
So when we talk about an ideal customer profile, there's always a specific point to it attached. A lot of people are throwing around terms like vision, strategy, ICPs, or PLG, or whatever, but I think people are often very misaligned on what they are for. And if you think about an ICP so an ideal customer profile should help the person who is using it in their silo, whether that's sales, product, customer success, whatever, when they should use this to make decisions that they would not have taken otherwise if the ICP profile wasn't there, then you start to immediately notice some problems with it. So a very, very common one for most B2B SaaS products right now is that if they do have an ICP, then it is very firmographics heavy, which means numbers that only sales cares about. How big is like a company or an account? Where do they live? How many potential licenses will they get, and so forth. And this does not tell you anything about why someone would use your product. And that makes it very hard for product people to decide anything, because firmographics only inform you about the potential height of an account and whether it's worth it for sales to reach out. So that's the first thing. And then probably a close second is companies think that separating their entire customer base into small, medium, and big is ICPs. That's not what it is about. So again, in my definition, an ideal customer profile is a collection of the most valuable customers that you have, but they're not all of your customers. And again, if you go with the principle that I said before, just knowing whether someone is small, medium, or big does not help you at all to make decisions as a product person. Maybe a little bit, like in terms of like whether you should have batch processing or not, but that's probably the biggest problem. So I think just size-based ICPs who are including everyone. And then the second one is to have only firmographics and nothing attached to user behavior. So the use case is why someone is using anything. So those would be the two biggest ones that I'd say.
Yeah, I think that really resonates from what I've seen in the past as well, when they even have an ICP. So thanks for that. Second question for you is, for teams that are just starting or taking their initial steps, can you make some recommendations on how they can gather insights and really lay groundwork for longer term success? Not just thinking immediately, but like over time, because ICPs is something that lives and gets used for a while.
So I think the problem is that when you're starting out, even if you go with what I said before, that ICPs should help you to make decisions in your daily life, you also need to consider that ICPs, or the customers who are using your product, they have a cross-functional experience with you. So when they're using the product, they have an experience with you. When they are dealing with support, they have an experience with you, customer success and sales. So they go through all the people. So when you're starting to define those and you start to have any definition of any ICP, then they should be aligned with everyone in the company. I think try to avoid to have different ICPs for different silos. I also don't think that you should work realistically with more than 3 definitions per area that you're working in. So if you're working in product, you should not have more than 3 ICPs. It's just too difficult, to kind of keep all of this in your head. And there, it really depends a little bit also on what the mixture is between usage data and firmographics. I am personally a big fan of putting more emphasis on usage. So for instance, you say that instead of like having large customers in the US, you start to say that, oh, we have volume photographers, which are commonly working inside of medium-sized businesses. So then you have both confirmed or both, then you have both combined, but you also defined a little bit on like what they are doing, right? So that's the bare minimum. So you're defining also a little bit of the industry they're working with, and you're kind of implying size. And that's the very first thing that you should do. And I think it's always good to go and have a look on the current customers that you have and say, out of everybody that we have, everybody that made a transaction with us, which one of those do we love the most? Would we like to have more of? And then you kind of try to define those as ICPs. And I think that's a good approach just to get started.
I love that. It's very pragmatic. Look at what you have, find your favorite. And then third, tell me more about this like influence, assuming that you've been able to do that. I've gone into my data, I've seen, okay, this is an archetype of grouping that they're using our product and loving our product, and we like this product base because it has growth potential and it has longevity and stability. What is the impact that this will have on the functionality for those users? How do we use ICP to really resonate with them?
So a very specific example that I always bring up is when we made decisions on whether we should refactor basically the product offering that we had at Small PDF. So we had ICP definitions that were really clearly going against each other, so to speak. So you might have one profile that is suggesting to you that people need to have a lot of functionality, so a lot of flexibility, whereas you might have another profile at the same time that is more valuing efficiency. So like, how fast can I repeat the specific task oftentimes during the day? And if you think about it right now, like let's say you do have these definitions and you're using these in your daily work. And as a product manager, you are starting to plan for the next 3 months. So what should we build, feature A, B, and C in order to reach outcome so-and-so? Then a good ICP profile allows you to qualify whether you should be doing something or whether you shouldn't, or what the impact of this will be. So for instance, if I go with the example from before, that would mean that if I'm pushing feature A, maybe I make ICP so-and-so happier, but at the same time, I probably make it a little bit worse for the other ICP. So if you start to increase efficiency, maybe you are making it harder for people to get more of a breadth of usage for all the features. So a good litmus test for this is that, can I make a decision? Can I make a better decision because I have a good ICP profile that helps me decide whether someone wants this or not? And what that means afterwards for the customer and the product is that they think that if I belong to the ICP, I get a very good feeling that this has been created for me. There's not too much fluff. There's not too much garbage. This is just really what I need. And for non-ICPs, it feels not a good fit, which is exactly what you want to have. That's the kind of feeling that you want to elicit in your users and customers in the end.
That's really, it makes me actually think about how we're using our ICPs right now for the fit, non-fit aspect of it. It really sounds like if you are doing your ICP right, it should be almost like a prioritization factor. It helps you make decisions, especially when you're talking about time to value, because what people value might be really different depending on which ICP profile you're focusing on. If you have multiple, we only have one, but I do think that like if you are working with multiple, it will help focus the team more and drive the value that you're looking to get.
No.
So when it comes to running the actual interviews themselves and like documenting those insights, do you have any tips around like what helped you apply this research in the growth area? So not just in like decision making or in considering targeting, but actually driving growth.
So when we talk about driving growth, we usually talk about optimizing onboarding flows. So, and not just onboarding, but also activation. So how can we optimally bring users to value in some way? Either people who do not know about us in the first place, or maybe existing customers that we need to expose to new features, exciting developments that we have done. And I think a good tip on this regard is to really not discard what customer success and sales is saying, because they're really good sources for qualitative feedback as well. Now, what I mean with that needs to be said with an asterisk. So commonly, product managers are very comfortable talking to users, and they're very comfortable talking to customers. But I saw a survey the other day where people were asking, like, hey, what is the most important thing for product managers to do? And then the most product managers said that, it's solving a customer problem. And that is kind of true. But what actually is the reason, or the fundamental existence of a team, is to make money for the company. So one of them is an output and the other one is an outcome of this, right? Now, if you think about it in this way, then you should really understand that, well, if there is an opportunity somewhere, so something that pisses off customers, right? So there is enough of pain for us to solve a specific problem and then make money out of it, then it will probably sooner or later show up somewhere in the data. Excuse me. So it should show up somewhere in the data sooner or later. Either because sales cannot close contracts, or customer success is starting to notice churn in very specific areas. And I just don't see this happening a lot from product managers. So they're very good with user interviews, they're very good with customer interviews, which is fine. But instead of just randomly going to people who are using the product, also talk to the disgruntled ones, talk to the internal users that we have from sales to kind of figure out what's going on. And then what you do is you take the qualitative hypotheses that you are forming from these and then try to validate them with your data. The way this works is, let's say someone says that, hey, your feature A is total garbage, and I'm hearing this from customer success over and over, then I'm not taking this as a reality, but I'm saying that, hey, this is a potential hypothesis. This is a potential opportunity that we have. Now we need to figure out how many users are actually struggling with this. You can do this through either sometimes quantitative analysis, where you see how feature A is being used, whether you see some really odd behavior, like instabilities or whatever, or you start to now contact your existing users and customers, and you start to targeted ask about, hey, how are you happy with feature A? And if nobody really cares about it or has very strong negative reactions, then you have probably an opportunity in front of you. So to summarize again, don't discard qualitative internal factors, but always verify them with quantitative data from your user base, and the usage data that you have. PMs over-focus on things that they can get a hold of, which is usually users. And yeah, they're ignoring sales and customer success. And I think this is a very, very important thing. On the practical side, maybe just one note. Learn that summarization is a superpower of product managers, specifically that are doing anything like this. So that means when you are starting to put stuff together like this, make strong, bold, short statements. Nobody's going to read through all of your user interviews. You have AI for this. It's very easy to collate these interviews, and bring them together, but have your data ready. And I think having summarizations that are really easy to consume and understand, maybe also paired with a snippet of a video or something, or someone that is actually reacting to stuff that you do, can be very, very powerful to get cross-functional alignment. And that's how I'm using it. Yeah.
That's amazing. You're kind of describing my first 6 months at Usersnap, actually. Listen to some user interviews, have a strong hypothesis that there might be a problem, go dig into our churn data relentlessly, and talk to CS, have 19 sales calls, ask questions, and see if there's any confirmation of it.
Yep.
It doesn't have to take months, actually. I think that probably took me about like 3 or 4 weeks to do all that research and then come up with a couple of spaces that feel like they're underserved in the market, that customers are confirming and complaining about. You automatically also build in this feedback loop where you can say, hey, you complained. We listened to you. Do you want to see the improvement? And it builds your beta test group afterwards, that type of approach. So knowing your ICP, really helpful for targeting, for understanding the problem space, and then digging into your quant and qual, and then maybe even using them afterwards for this like confirmation of the direction that you think they want you to go and what would be actually helpful for them. Super incredible responses. As always, I'm blown away by how you can just come up with this stuff on the fly. It really speaks to your experience and expertise. Thank you so much, Leah, for all this time and energy that you're putting into our community, and also for letting us feature you on Usersnap. And if you haven't checked out her surveys yet, please do, and check out also some of the links that we're going to put on her page. She has an amazing podcast. She has an amazing Substack where she shares a lot of great information. And of course, she teaches and shares this data and consults on a regular basis with organizations. So thank you so much, Leah, and have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you for having me.